You know that moment when you catch your husband cheating at a red light in North Dallas traffic, and your first instinct isn't tears, it's evidence collection? Yeah, welcome to my Tuesday. There I was, Mockingbird Lane, 5 o'clock gridlock, air conditioning blasting against the Texas inferno, when I spotted Sterling's silver BMW convertible 2 lanes over. Top down, naturally. Because 41-year-old men in midlife crisis mode apparently think wind-blown hair screams, "I've still got it." Except Sterling's thinning situation screams more, "I should invest in Rogaine," than GQ cover model. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was the 20-something blonde in his passenger seat, throwing her head back, laughing like he'd just delivered the comedy special of the century. Spoiler alert, Sterling's funniest joke is his belief that he's smooth enough to pull this off. I watched them for maybe 3 seconds. Her hand on his arm, his stupid grin, the way he leaned toward her at the stoplight like they were in some rom-com meet-cute instead of my 11-year marriage's funeral. And then, because God has impeccable timing, Sterling glanced left. Our eyes locked. His face went through more transformations than a Marvel superhero origin story. Confusion, recognition, absolute terror. The BMW lurched forward, still red light, mind you, and nearly rear-ended the Honda Accord ahead. Blonde girl grabbed the dashboard. Sterling's hand strangled the steering wheel like it personally offended him. I smiled, waved, and pulled out my iPhone. The video I captured over those next 45 seconds was chef's kiss perfection. Sterling's panic-stricken face filling my screen. The blonde ducking down like that would somehow erase her existence. The BMW weaving slightly as his hands visibly shook. When that light finally turned green, he peeled out so fast his tires actually squealed. Real subtle, honey. I sat there as traffic moved around me, cars honking because apparently processing your husband's infidelity takes longer than a Dallas green light allows. Some guy in a pickup truck yelled something about women drivers. I gave him a beauty pageant wave and pulled into a Starbucks parking lot. My hands were surprisingly steady as I opened my messages. Found Marilla's name. My sister-in-law, my best friend since Sterling first brought me to family dinner 12 years ago. The woman who'd warned me that her brother had the emotional depth of a kiddie pool. I typed 3 words. Activate protocol destruction. Then I sent the video. Marilla called before I'd even set the phone down. Please tell me that's what I think it is. Mockingbird in Greenville, 5:03 p.m. Caught in 4K. My voice sounded weirdly calm. Shock, probably. Or maybe just years of late-night texts that smelled like perfume and deleted message notifications I'd convinced myself were paranoia. Convertible, blonde, practically sitting in his lap. "Oh, Sterling, you idiot!" Marilla's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "You beautiful, stupid man. Do you have any idea who that is?" "Should I?" Giselle Crawford, 24, financial department intern, started 6 months ago. There was a pause filled with keyboard clicking. Marilla was already looking something up. "Oh, this is delicious. She reports to Mitchell, who reports to the VP Sterling works under. Technically makes Sterling indirect supervisory chain." My marketing brain started connecting dots. Corporate Code of Conduct. Subsection 4, Paragraph 2. Intimate relationships between employees in supervisory hierarchy require immediate disclosure to HR and potential reassignment. More clicking. Which I'm guessing Sterling never disclosed, because he's an arrogant moron who thinks rules are suggestions. See, here's what you need to understand about Marilla. She's worked in human resources at Preston & Associates for 8 years. Same company where Sterling's been playing big shot senior analyst, strutting around like he owns the place in his Men's Warehouse suits and cologne that costs more than most people's car payments. But Marilla isn't just any HR employee. She's Senior HR Compliance Specialist, which means she handles exactly this kind of situation. Relationships, harassment claims, code of conduct violations. She knows every loophole, every policy, every procedure that could make an employee's life absolutely miserable within the bounds of Texas employment law. And she's hated Sterling with the fire of 1,000 suns since 2019. That was the year their mother died. Sweet woman, owned a gorgeous Victorian house in Oak Lawn. One of those historical beauties worth about $850,000 that she'd inherited from her parents. The original will split everything 50-50 between her kids. But 6 months before she passed, Sterling convinced her to change it. Told her Marilla was unstable because she was 33 and unmarried. Said giving a single woman property was irresponsible because when she eventually finds a husband, he should be the provider. Actual quote. I heard him say it at Sunday dinner while I sat there with a mouthful of pot roast. Too shocked to swallow. Their mother, already weak from cancer, already struggling with medication brain fog, signed new documents Sterling's lawyer buddy drew up. Sterling inherited the house, the investments, everything. Marilla got $10,000 and their mother's jewelry. Sterling immediately converted that Victorian into an Airbnb. Oak Lawn location, historical charm, modern updates. He rents it for $350 a night, pulling in around $8,000 monthly. Meanwhile, Marilla lost the house she grew up in, where she'd planned to raise her own family someday, because her brother decided her unmarried status made her unworthy. She smiled at the funeral, hugged Sterling, told him she understood. Then she went home and planned. I need you to do something, Marilla said now, her voice carrying that specific tone that meant she was 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. Check your bank accounts, all of them. Credit cards, too. Look for any charges from restaurants, hotels, anything that seems off. I pulled up our banking app while she talked. Joint checking, joint savings. Sterling's credit card that I was an authorized user on for emergencies. We'd combined finances year 2 of marriage. His idea, actually, because married couples share everything. Started scrolling through transactions. Starbucks, normal, Home Depot, makes sense, Shell gas station, whatever. Then, the Mansion restaurant, I read aloud. March 14th, 340.67. The Mansion, Marilla's voice went up. That place is fancy, like proposal fancy. What did he tell you he was doing that night? I checked my calendar. March 14th was a Thursday. I'd been at a client presentation that ran late. Sterling had texted around 7. Working late, don't wait up. Gonna grab something at the office. He said he was working. At an upscale French restaurant in Turtle Creek. Marilla's keyboard was going crazy now. Serena, what card did he use? I zoomed in on the transaction details. Corporate card. It says, Preston and Associates Business Platinum. The silence on the other end was profound. Then Marilla laughed, and it was the most genuine joy I'd heard from her in years. He used the company card. For a date. With a subordinate employee. She was practically singing. That's misuse of corporate resources. That's a fireable offense. That's, oh, Sterling, you've really outdone yourself this time. But how would you even... You're going to file a formal complaint with HR. You can do it anonymously through the ethics hotline, or as his spouse with direct evidence. Either way, HR will open an investigation. They'll pull corporate card statements. They'll review email communications on company servers. Her voice dropped lower, more serious. And I'll make absolutely certain that investigation is thorough, completely by the book. No favoritism. Just pure, beautiful compliance protocol. My heart was pounding now. Not from panic. From something that felt weirdly like excitement. This could actually work. Honey, this is going to be spectacular. The thing about corporate investigations is they move like glaciers. Slow, cold, and absolutely unstoppable once they get going. I filed the complaint Friday morning through Preston and Associates' confidential ethics hotline, identifying myself as Sterling's spouse with documented evidence of policy violations. By Monday afternoon, Sterling was sweating through his Brooks Brothers button-down in a windowless conference room. I know because Marilla sent me updates like play-by-play sports commentary. He just arrived, brought coffee, thinks this is casual. Pause. Oh, honey, they just put the folder on the table. You should see his face. HR pulled 3 people for the investigation team. Marilla wasn't lead investigator. That would have been too obvious. Potential conflict of interest. But she was on the team. Completely legitimate. Completely by the book. She'd been senior compliance specialist for 2 years. Handled dozens of these cases. Nobody questioned her involvement. The lead investigator was Patricia Morgan, a woman who'd been with Preston and Associates for 23 years and had the warmth of a tax audit. She opened every meeting the same way. This is a fact-finding process. Company policy requires complete cooperation. Any dishonesty will result in immediate termination, regardless of investigation outcome. Sterling, apparently, went with the strategy of a guilty golden retriever. Deny everything. Look confused. Maybe someone will feel sorry for you. There must be some mistake, he'd said, according to Marilla's recap over wine that evening at my place. We were sitting on my back porch, ceiling fan doing absolutely nothing against the Texas heat, while I took notes like I was studying for the bar exam. Patricia asked about Giselle, Marilla continued, swirling her Chardonnay. Sterling said they were friendly colleagues who occasionally consulted on cross-departmental projects. She asked if they'd ever socialized outside work. He said no, just straight up lied, even though I have video of them together. Oh, it gets better. Marilla grinned like a cat with a corner full of mice. Patricia asked about corporate card usage. Sterling said he only used it for legitimate business expenses, always properly documented. She asked specifically about the mansion charge. He said it was a client dinner. I leaned forward. But there's no client name on the expense report. Exactly. So Patricia asked him to provide the client's name and contact information for verification. Sterling said he'd have to check his records because it was several weeks ago, and he meets with so many clients. Marilla did air quotes with her fingers, voice dripping sarcasm. Patricia gave him 24 hours to produce documentation. He can't, because it doesn't exist. And here's the beautiful part. When you use the corporate card, the system automatically logs timestamp and location. The mansion charge came through at 8:47 p.m. on March 14th. That's not business lunch territory. That's romantic dinner with wine pairing. I pulled up my phone, showed her the text Sterling had sent me that night. Working late? Don't wait up. Gonna grab something at the office. Permission to submit this as additional evidence? Granted. By Tuesday, HR had expanded their investigation. They pulled Sterling's corporate email account, standard procedure, company property. Employees have no privacy expectation for work communications. Some paralegal intern probably got stuck doing the initial review, searching for Giselle's name in Sterling's inbox. They found 214 emails. Not all incriminating. Plenty were actual work stuff. Can you send me the Q2 projections? Meeting moved to 3 p.m. Boring operational nonsense. But sprinkled throughout, like Easter eggs for HR investigators, were gems. Missing you sent at 10:23 a.m. on a Wednesday. Last night was amazing sent the morning after the mansion dinner. Can't stop thinking about you, with a winking emoji, because my 41-year-old husband apparently texts like a teenager who just discovered flirting. Marilla forwarded me screenshots, redacted, technically confidential, but she accidentally left them on the printer, and I happened to see them when I stopped by her apartment. Plausible deniability. We'd gotten good at this. The VP called Sterling in Thursday, she told me over lunch at Mesomaya. We were splitting queso fundido, acting like normal people having normal conversations, while she casually destroyed my husband's career between bites of tortilla chips. Marcus, the VP, basically told Sterling the evidence was concerning and asked if he wanted to reconsider his previous statements. Gave him an opportunity to come clean, probably hoping to avoid messier termination procedures. Let me guess. Sterling doubled down. Said someone must have hacked his email. Suggested Giselle might be unstable and fabricating a relationship that didn't exist. Threw her completely under the bus. Marilla shook her head. Marcus asked why an unstable woman would fabricate 200 emails over 6 months that Sterling never reported or complained about. Sterling said he didn't want to damage her career over mental health issues. Oh, that's rich. The man who convinced your mother to cut you from her will because single women are unstable is now using mental health as his defense strategy. The irony is not lost on me. Marilla's smile was sharp. Anyway, Marcus told him they'd be interviewing Giselle next. Asked if there was anything else Sterling wanted to share before that conversation happened. Sterling said no. Giselle's interview was apparently spectacular. The girl came in already crying, according to Marilla's sources. She had friends in HR admin who owed her favors. Giselle confirmed the relationship immediately. Said it started 4 months ago. Said Sterling had pursued her, invited her to lunch, complimented her work, made her feel special and valued. Said she knew he was married, but believed him when he said the marriage was basically over, and he was planning to file for divorce soon anyway. I actually laughed when Marilla told me that part. Classic. Right? She showed Patricia some texts where Sterling said you two were living like roommates, and he was only staying for financial reasons. Standard affair playbook. What about the Facebook photo? Oh, that's where it got interesting. Marilla leaned in. Patricia showed Giselle a screenshot of our anniversary post from February 20th. You and Sterling at Mi Cocina. Caption 11 years with my favorite person. Giselle had liked it. February 20th at 9:34 p.m. 2 months into their relationship. Exactly. Patricia asked how that squared with believing the marriage was over. Giselle said Sterling told her you posted that stuff for appearances and to keep family off his back about divorce. Marilla's expression was pure disgust. Girl actually believed him. Then Patricia asked about the mansion dinner. Giselle confirmed she'd been there with Sterling. Confirmed it was romantic. Confirmed they'd shared a bottle of wine, Chateau something or other that cost $180 alone, because Sterling has expensive taste when he's trying to impress women who aren't his wife. Patricia asked who paid. Sterling did, Giselle said. Do you know what card he used? Giselle didn't. But the receipt told the whole story. Preston and Associates Business Platinum. Expense category, Client Entertainment. Justification note. Dinner meeting REQ2 financial projections. Except Giselle was an intern. She didn't work on Q2 projections. Her supervisor confirmed she'd never been assigned to any project involving Sterling's department. The business dinner was fiction. The romance was real. The corporate card fraud was documented. Friday afternoon, 2 weeks after my red light discovery, Patricia Morgan called Sterling back to that windowless conference room. Marilla texted me, "It's happening." I was in the middle of a marketing presentation for a skincare client, talking about Instagram engagement metrics, when my phone buzzed. I ignored it. Professional to the end. That's me. But my Apple Watch kept lighting up with messages. They're presenting findings now. Sterling looks gray. Marcus just said effective immediately. He's out. I wrapped up my presentation, smiled at the client, talked about conversion rates and brand awareness, while my soon-to-be ex-husband's entire career imploded 15 miles north. Multitasking at its finest. The official termination letter cited 3 violations. Inappropriate relationship with subordinate employee in violation of Section 4. 2 of the Employee Handbook. Misuse of corporate resources per Section 8.7. And dishonesty during internal investigation per Section 3.1. Translation. He slept with an intern, charged the date to the company card, and lied about it. He was fired for cause, which meant no severance package, no unemployment benefits, no glowing recommendation letter, just a cardboard box for his desk belongings and a security escort to his car. He also lost his annual bonus. $35,000 that would have hit his account in 2 weeks. Gone. Giselle got reassigned to the Lubbock office. Technically a lateral move, couldn't fire her since she'd cooperated with the investigation, and was arguably the less powerful party in the dynamic. But Lubbock might as well be Mars. 3-hour drive from Dallas, population 250,000, biggest attraction is a prairie dog town. She'd gone from Dallas nightlife to tumbleweeds. That evening, Sterling showed up at the house. We'd been coexisting in tense silence since my discovery 2 weeks ago. Separate bedrooms. Minimal conversation. But when I saw him walk through that door with his cardboard box and defeated expression, something in me crystallized. I was sitting on the couch watching the Great British Baking Show. "You knew," he said. I looked up from a particularly dramatic custard disaster. "Knew what?" "Don't play stupid, Serena. The investigation, the timing. Your sister, I corrected. Marilla is your sister, who you screwed out of her inheritance, by the way, so maybe think about that before you accuse her of professional misconduct." His face was doing that thing where he couldn't decide between anger and panic. "She works in HR. She had access to a legitimate investigation triggered by your spouse's complaint with documented evidence. Everything she did was completely legal, completely documented, and completely within her job responsibilities." I paused the show. "But sure, Sterling. Blame Marilla. Blame me. Blame anyone except the man who used company money to wine and dine an intern while lying to his wife. I never—" "You want to finish that sentence? Because I have video, emails, credit card statements, and a really good lawyer on retainer." I stood up. "You're sleeping at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow we're filing for divorce. And if you even think about contesting anything, I'll make sure every person at Preston and Associates knows exactly why you got fired." He left. Didn't even pack a bag. I texted Marilla. "He's gone. She sent back a champagne emoji and, Phase 2 tomorrow? Because we weren't done. Not even close. Phase 2 started with paperwork. So much paperwork. Divorce in Texas isn't the romantic drama they show in movies where someone throws a ring and storms out. It's forms and affidavits and financial disclosures and waiting periods designed to make you reconsider whether freedom is worth the tedium. Spoiler alert, it absolutely is. My lawyer was a woman named Beatrix Volkov, 50-something, Eastern European accent, zero patience for nonsense. Her office was in Uptown, decorated like a museum, expensive art, uncomfortable chairs, the kind of environment that screamed, I bill $400 an hour and I'm worth every penny. You have documentation? She asked at our first meeting Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. I slid a folder across her desk. Inside, printed screenshots of Sterling's texts from March 14th, bank statements showing the mansion charge, the red light video, a timeline I'd created in Excel with dates, locations, and corresponding evidence. My marketing background coming in clutch. If you can build a campaign deck, you can build a divorce case. Beatrix flipped through it with the expression of someone examining a particularly interesting specimen. This is thorough. I'm a detail person. The house is in your name? Inherited from my father. Deed shows sole ownership. Sterling's name was never added. Thank you, Dad, for that particular piece of paranoid wisdom. He'd insisted when he gifted me the house for our 5th anniversary. Keep it separate, keep it protected, trust, but verify. I'd thought he was being cynical. Turns out he was being smart. Retirement accounts? We both have 401ks through our employers. His has about $180,000. Mine has $95,000. I started my career later, spent a few years freelancing before going corporate, so I'm behind on contributions. Texas is community property state, so I'm entitled to half of what he accumulated during the marriage. Right? Correct. Minus whatever he had before you married. Do you know that number? I pulled out another sheet. He had $32,000 when we got married 11 years ago. Company matches 6%. He contributes 8% of a $95,000 salary that's increased about 3% annually. Compound interest at average 7% market return. Should be roughly $148,000 accumulated during marriage. Half of that is $74,000. Beatrix actually smiled. You've done my job for me. I'm a marketer. I know how to research. Any other assets? Property, investments, vehicles? The Oak Lawn house. I leaned forward. Technically, it's Sterling's. He inherited it from his mother 4 years ago. But here's where it gets interesting. I explained the whole story. The deathbed will change. Marilla getting cut out. Sterling converting their childhood home into an Airbnb cash machine. The $8,000 monthly income he'd been collecting while his sister got nothing. That property isn't marital asset, Beatrix said. Inheritance is separate property in Texas even if acquired during marriage. I know, but I'm not after the house itself. I want Sterling to have to sell it. She raised an eyebrow. Court can't force him to sell separate property. Court can't, but financial pressure can. I pulled out more documentation. Sterling's current income is 0. He was fired, can't collect unemployment because it was for-cause termination. He's got maybe $15,000 in our joint savings. Technically half mine anyway. The house we live in is mine, so he'll need to find his own place. Security deposit, first month's rent, furniture, utilities. That's easily $5,000 to $8,000 upfront for anything decent in Dallas. He could use credit cards. He maxed 2 of them last year buying crypto that tanked. He's got maybe $3,000 total credit availability. I'd checked. Authorized user perks include seeing the full account details. His car payment is $670 monthly. Insurance is $190. Student loans? $340 a month. One of those income-based plans he'd been dragging out for tax purposes. Cell phone $85. Gym membership $60. Streaming services $45. Miscellaneous subscriptions and expenses bring him to about $1,800 in fixed monthly costs before he even eats food or puts gas in that ridiculous BMW. Beatrix was typing notes. Job prospects? Sales background, management experience, but fired for cause from a respected firm. Reference checks will destroy him. He might find something eventually, but it'll take months. And it'll pay less than Preston and Associates. So he's burning through savings with no income. Exactly. And here's the beautiful part. That Oak Lawn house? He's been using the Airbnb income to fund his lifestyle. Wine collection, golf club membership, the convertible. Without it, he can't maintain his standard of living. I paused. But Airbnb income is inconsistent. Some months he makes $10,000, some months $4,000. Depends on bookings, tourism, events. Average is $8,000, but that's an average, not a guarantee. Where are you going with this? He'll need liquidity fast. Selling the house gives him capital to survive the next year while he rebuilds his career. And if he sells, I smiled. Marilla wants to buy it. She's been pre-approved for a mortgage. 8 years of aggressive saving plus the $10,000 from her mother's estate gave her enough for a substantial down payment. She'll offer asking price minus 10% as a family discount. Sterling will be desperate enough to take it. You've thought this through. I've thought about nothing else for 2 weeks. The divorce filing was straightforward. No kids, clear property division, mutual agreement to split retirement accounts according to community property law. I wasn't asking for alimony. Didn't need it. Didn't want to be connected to Sterling for a second longer than necessary. Just wanted what was legally mine and a clean break. Sterling's lawyer tried to negotiate. Wanted to keep more of his 401k, claimed his future earning potential was damaged by the termination, and he needed those funds. Beatrix shut that down in one email. Your client damaged his own earning potential by committing corporate fraud and adultery. My client is being extraordinarily reasonable. Accept terms or we proceed to contested divorce with full financial discovery. He accepted terms. But here's what Sterling's lawyer didn't know. What Sterling didn't know. What nobody except Marilla and I knew. I'd been documenting everything. Every text message Sterling sent me over 11 years. Backed up to cloud storage, organized by date. Every email, every photo, every piece of communication. I had records of every major purchase we'd made, every vacation, every financial decision. My marketing brain couldn't help it. I'm a documentation machine. And buried in those 11 years of messages was pure gold. March of 2019, right after his mother's funeral, Sterling had texted me. Finally got Mom to change the will. Marilla doesn't need that house. She's never getting married anyway. We can use the rental income for our future. Our future. Not his future. Our future. He'd explicitly discussed using that inheritance, that separate property, for marital benefit. Texas law has specific provisions. Separate property income that's deposited into joint accounts and commingled with marital funds can be argued as community property, especially when there's documented intent to use it for marital purposes. Sterling had been depositing Airbnb income into our joint checking account for 4 years, mixing it with my salary, using it to pay our joint credit cards, fund our joint savings. The income, not the property itself, but the rental income, had become marital asset. I showed Beatrix the evidence at our third meeting, watched her read through the texts, the bank statements showing deposits labeled Oak Lawn Rental going into our joint account, the credit card payments funded by that mixed money. This changes everything, she said quietly. Can we claim half the rental income? We can argue he converted separate property income into community property through commingling and expressed intent to use it for marital purposes. The property itself stays separate. That's clear inheritance law. But the income stream he deliberately deposited into marital accounts? Strong case for community property treatment. She looked up. If we file this motion, Sterling will fight. This becomes contested, expensive, ugly. Or we use it as leverage. Tell his lawyer we discovered this evidence. Offer to drop the income claim if Sterling agrees to sell the house within 60 days and split net proceeds 60-40. You get 60% for your equitable interest in the income stream that funded marital expenses over 4 years. He'll never agree. He will when his lawyer explains the alternative is potentially owing you half of $8,000 monthly for 4 years. That's $192,000 in back community property income, plus legal fees that'll cost him $30,000 minimum. 60-40 split on a controlled sale versus protracted litigation over income calculations? Easy math. I sat back. Marilla still gets to buy it? Nothing stops her from making an offer. If she's highest bidder in a legitimate sale process, property's hers. Beatrix smiled. Your husband screwed over his sister once. Poetic if she ends up with the house anyway. After he gets less than he would've if he'd just been a decent person to begin with. Karma's funny that way. We filed the motion on a Thursday. Sterling's lawyer called Beatrix by Friday afternoon. By Monday, we had a revised settlement agreement. Sterling would list the Oak Lawn house for sale within 30 days, accept any reasonable offer within 60 days, and split net proceeds 60-40 in my favor after real estate fees and closing costs. Marilla was ready. She'd been watching that house like a hawk, maintaining her pre-approval, keeping her finances pristine. The day Sterling listed it, priced at $825,000, which was low but he was desperate, she submitted an offer through her mortgage broker, $775,000, financing pre-approved, 10-day inspection period, 30-day close. Sterling's realtor brought him 2 other offers that week. One for $790,000 with contingencies. One for $810,000, but the buyers needed to sell their current house first, 60-day close minimum. His lawyer advised taking the $810,000 offer. More money, worth the wait. But Sterling was hemorrhaging cash. He'd moved into a mediocre apartment complex in Richardson, $2,600 monthly for a 1-bedroom that smelled like old carpet and broken dreams. He'd gotten a job selling insurance, base salary $45,000 plus commission, which was about half what he'd made at Preston and Associates. The BMW payment was killing him. The loans were killing him. He needed money immediately, not in 60 days. He took Marilla's offer. I wasn't there for the closing, but Marilla sent me a photo afterward. Her, standing in front of the Oak Lawn Victorian, holding the keys, smiling wider than I'd seen in 4 years. The house she'd grown up in, the house Sterling had stolen, back in her hands. She'd paid $775,000. After 6% real estate commission and closing costs, Sterling netted about $715,000. 60-40 split meant I got $429,000. He got $286,000. I immediately put my portion toward investments. Boring index funds, retirement accounts, the kind of stable financial planning that doesn't make for exciting stories, but makes for comfortable futures. Sterling, according to Marilla's sources, bought another BMW. Because apparently being broke and humiliated wasn't enough of a learning experience. The divorce finalized 8 weeks after filing. Quick, clean, no drama in court. Just signatures and a judge's stamp, and suddenly 11 years of marriage dissolved into legal documentation. I walked out of that courthouse feeling lighter than I had in years. Marilla was waiting by her car. "Phase 3?" she asked. I grinned. "Let's make sure he never forgets this." Phase 3 wasn't about money. We'd already won that game. This was about making absolutely certain Sterling understood the consequences of his choices in the most publicly humiliating way possible, while remaining completely, legally bulletproof. It started with LinkedIn. See, Sterling had updated his profile the week after getting fired, scrubbed any mention of Preston and Associates, replaced it with senior financial consultant at Liberty Mutual Insurance, made it sound like a lateral move instead of a catastrophic downgrade, posted something about exciting new opportunities and fresh challenges, like he'd chosen this path instead of having it chosen for him. The comments were supportive. "Congratulations!" and "best of luck," from people who had no idea he'd been terminated for sleeping with an intern and committing corporate fraud. Marilla had a different idea about transparency. She didn't post anything herself. That would have been unprofessional, potentially actionable. But she did have a conversation with 3 former colleagues from Preston and Associates who'd worked adjacent to Sterling's department. Casual mentions over coffee about how unfortunate the situation had been, how the investigation had been thorough and well documented, how corporate fraud was always taken seriously. Word spreads fast in professional circles. Within 2 weeks, Sterling's LinkedIn post had new comments. Nothing explicitly accusatory. People are smart about litigation risk, but pointed enough. Interesting timing on the career change. Hope the transition was smooth. One particularly bold former colleague wrote, "Wishing you well in your new role. I'm sure the change of environment will be good for everyone involved." Sterling deleted the post, but screenshots live forever, and someone had already archived it. The insurance agency started noticing things too. Sterling had talked big during his interview about his extensive client network, from Preston and Associates, how he could bring in high net worth individuals looking for comprehensive financial planning and insurance packages. Except his former clients weren't returning calls. Because Marilla, being the thorough HR professional she was, had ensured that Preston and Associates sent a standard notification to all clients who'd worked with Sterling. Please be advised that Sterling Hayes is no longer employed with our firm. For continued service on your accounts, please contact. Standard procedure after any termination. Completely normal. Entirely legal. But clients aren't stupid. When someone vanishes from a major firm with no forwarding explanation, and then pops up selling insurance 3 weeks later, they connect dots. Especially when that someone had been handling their investment portfolios and suddenly can't explain why he's no longer doing so. Sterling's extensive network turned into 3 returned calls and 1 pity policy from a former college roommate who felt sorry for him. His boss at Liberty Mutual, a guy named Ron who managed the North Dallas territory, started asking questions about Sterling's production numbers 6 weeks in. Insurance sales is commission-heavy. If you're not closing deals, you're not making money. Sterling's base salary was $45,000, but the job expected $120,000 in total compensation through commissions. He was on track for maybe $52,000 total. In Dallas, where rent exists. Ron put him on a performance improvement plan. 60 days to hit specific metrics or, we'll need to reevaluate your fit with the organization. Corporate speak for start updating your resume. Meanwhile, I'd gotten a promotion at work. My boss, Miranda, 52, ran the marketing department like a Fortune 500 general, had been watching my performance over the past year. Even while navigating divorce proceedings, my campaign metrics were up 32%. Client retention at 97%. I'd landed 2 major accounts while simultaneously protecting my financial interests through a complex divorce. The organizational skills were undeniable. She promoted me to senior marketing director. 20% raise, corner office, budget authority. I celebrated by adopting a second dog, a rescue beagle named Biscuit, who had anxiety issues and trusted nobody. We bonded immediately. Marilla hosted a divorce party at the Oak Lawn house. She'd been renovating slowly, restoring original features Sterling had painted over to make it more modern for Airbnb guests. Crown molding revealed. Hardwood floors refinished. The house was becoming itself again. 20 women showed up. Friends from work, college, my book club, Marilla's HR colleagues. We drank Prosecco on the back patio, ate entirely too much queso, and someone made a cake decorated with "Congratulations on your divorce" in elegant script frosting. Sterling found out about the party through Instagram. One of my friends had tagged the location. He sent me a text at 10:47 p.m. "Really classy, Serena. Celebrating our divorce at my mother's house." I responded at 10:49 p.m. "Correction. Celebrating at Marilla's house. You sold it, remember? Also, you're still in my phone contacts. Fixing that now." Blocked his number. Should have done it months ago, honestly. The real poetic justice came 3 months post-divorce. Sterling had been trying to fight the performance improvement plan at Liberty Mutual, insisting his numbers were industry standard for someone building a new book of business. Ron disagreed. The metric said Sterling was in the bottom 15% of agents territory-wide. Then, one of Sterling's potential clients, a guy named Marcus Chen, mentioned during a sales meeting that he'd heard some things about Sterling's previous employment and wanted to verify his background before committing to a policy. Ron, being a responsible manager, did what any manager would do. Called Preston and Associates for an employment verification. HR departments are legally limited in what they can disclose. Dates of employment, job title, eligible for rehire status. That's it. They can't elaborate on why someone left unless directly asked specific questions, and even then, it's carefully worded to avoid litigation. But eligible for rehire is binary. Yes or no. Preston and Associates said no. Ron asked why, knowing he probably wouldn't get details. The HR rep said, "Terminated for cause. Company policy prevents rehire. I can't provide specifics, but documentation is available through legal channels if required for litigation purposes." That was enough. Ron called Sterling into his office and asked point blank, "Were you fired from Preston and Associates?" Sterling had told them during his interview that he'd transitioned to pursue new opportunities. Technically true. The opportunity to eat was a compelling transition reason, but misleading enough to count as dishonesty on an employment application. Liberty Mutual terminated him for falsifying application materials. 2 jobs in 4 months. Both endings documented and verifiable. His resume was becoming unemployable. Marilla sent me the update via text. Heard through the grapevine Sterling got canned from insurance gig. Karma's working overtime. I was at my desk, reviewing Q3 campaign analytics, when I got her message. Smiled at my computer screen. Took a sip of coffee. Went back to work. Because here's the thing about revenge. The best kind doesn't require your active participation. You just set the dominoes up correctly and let gravity do its thing. Sterling tried appealing to Marilla directly. Showed up at the Oak Lawn house one Saturday morning, rang the doorbell like he still had rights to the property. Marilla answered in paint-stained overalls. She'd been redoing the kitchen backsplash, and stared at him through the screen door. "What do you want, Sterling?" "I need help. I can't find work. Everyone's calling Preston, and they're telling the truth about why you were fired." "Yes, that's how employment verification works. You could talk to them. Explain it wasn't as bad as corporate fraud and sleeping with a subordinate. Sterling, it was exactly that bad. You did those things. You got caught. You lied about it. These are consequences. I'm your brother. You're the person who stole my inheritance and told our dying mother I was too unstable to own property because I wasn't married." Marilla's voice was flat. "You made your choices. I'm making mine. My choice is this door staying closed." She shut it. Literal and metaphorical. Sterling's car, the new BMW he'd bought with divorce money, got repossessed 4 months later. Turns out financing a $60,000 vehicle on unstable income is poor financial planning. The repo process takes time, typically 60 to 90 days of missed payments before the bank takes action. But eventually, economic reality catches up. Who knew? He moved from the Richardson apartment to a cheaper place in Garland, then to a friend's couch. Then, according to Marilla's intelligence network, back to his college roommate's garage apartment at age 41. The same roommate who'd bought the pity insurance policy. Giselle, meanwhile, had lasted exactly 4 months in Lubbock before requesting a transfer back to Dallas or resignation. Preston and Associates doesn't negotiate with people trying to escape consequences of their own actions. She resigned. Last I heard, she was working retail at North Park Mall and living with her parents in Plano. Her Instagram went private. Her LinkedIn disappeared. 24 years old with a cautionary tale that'll follow her forever. Not entirely fair. Sterling was the one with power in that dynamic, the one who should have known better. But life isn't fair. It's just occasionally poetic. I ran into Sterling once, 7 months after the divorce finalized. Total accident. Whole Foods on a Sunday afternoon, both of us reaching for the last container of pre-cut mango because apparently we still had identical shopping habits. He looked terrible. Weight loss that wasn't healthy. Discount store clothes replacing the designer brands. Exhaustion carved into his face like topography. "Serena," he said. Just my name. Like he had a whole speech prepared but forgot it. "Sterling." I took the mango container. He didn't fight for it. "I'm sorry. For everything. I was stupid and selfish and—" "You were," I agreed. "But apologies don't actually fix anything. They're just words people say when consequences get uncomfortable. Is there any chance we could—" "No." I put the mango in my cart. "There's no chance. We're done. We've been done. Move forward with your life and leave me out of it." I walked away. Didn't look back. Bought mango, fresh bread, good cheese, wine that cost more than Sterling probably spent on groceries that whole week. Went home to my beautiful house, my 2 dogs, my thriving career, my Sunday evening plans that involved absolutely nothing related to my ex-husband. Sterling sent one final text that night, from a new number I didn't have blocked yet. "I deserve this. But did you have to destroy everything?" I stared at it for 30 seconds. Considered responses. Settled on truth. "I didn't destroy anything. You did. I just declined to save you from yourself." Then I blocked that number too. Marilla came over the next weekend. We sat on my back patio with lemonade and watched the dogs play in the yard. She'd finished the Oak Lawn renovations. The house was perfect, exactly as their mother had kept it, before Sterling turned it into a rental property. Think he learned anything? She asked. Probably not. People like Sterling think they're victims of circumstances instead of architects of consequences. Fair point. She raised her glass. 2 consequences, then. 2 consequences, I echoed. And to sisters who actually have your back. We clinked glasses while the Texas sun set orange and pink, and the dogs barked at absolutely nothing. And somewhere across Dallas, Sterling Hayes dealt with the life he'd built for himself. Poetic doesn't begin to cover it. A year after the divorce, I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop in Bishop Arts District. Local place, excellent espresso, the kind of spot where baristas remember your order and nobody bothers you when you're clearly working. I had my laptop open, reviewing a campaign proposal for a new skincare client, when a woman approached my table. Mid-30s, professional attire, hesitant smile. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but are you Serena? You work in marketing, right? I looked up, trying to place her face. I am. Do we know each other? Not exactly. I'm Claire. I work at Preston and Associates, in accounting. She paused, glancing around like she was about to share state secrets. I heard about what happened with your ex-husband, the investigation, everything. Oh, wonderful. My personal drama as office gossip. That was over a year ago. I know, but I wanted to thank you. She sat down uninvited, which would normally annoy me, but her expression was genuinely earnest. There was a senior manager in my department. Similar situation, dating someone 3 levels below him, using his position to, well, nobody said anything because he was valuable to the company, but after Sterling's case, after seeing how seriously HR took it, I filed a complaint. They investigated. He's gone now. I closed my laptop slowly. I'm glad something good came from that disaster. It wasn't a disaster. It was brave. Claire stood up. Anyway, I won't take more of your time. I just wanted you to know it mattered. She left. I sat there with cold espresso, processing the idea that my worst personal crisis had accidentally created professional consequences beyond my ex-husband's spectacular downfall. Funny how that works. Life moved forward the way it does when you stop anchoring yourself to someone else's gravity. I dated casually. Pediatrician from Bumble turned into 6 pleasant months before we mutually agreed we were better as friends. Met an architect named Owen at Marilla's birthday party, who made me laugh and didn't have any secret families or corporate fraud in his background. Bought a kayak and discovered I actually enjoyed being on White Rock Lake at sunrise. Learned to make sourdough bread during a particularly ambitious weekend that resulted in 1 decent loaf and 2 hockey pucks. The dogs were thriving. Biscuit's anxiety improved with routine and patience. My original dog, Pepper, a lab mix, appointed himself Biscuit's emotional support animal and took the job seriously. Work continued being excellent. The promotion led to more responsibility, more interesting projects, more money. I'd never been the type to define myself by career success, but independence tastes different when you've earned it by refusing to tolerate disrespect. Sweeter somehow. More substantial. Marilla and I had brunch every other Sunday at the Oak Lawn house. She'd finished renovations and moved in permanently, turning the 2nd floor into a home office. We'd sit in the kitchen she'd restored, original 1920s tile work, modern appliances, perfect blend of history and function, and she'd tell me about her week while I told her about mine. Sterling asked me for money last month, she mentioned casually over mimosas one Sunday in October. Please tell me you laughed in his face. I did better. I sent him a Venmo request for $175,000, half the value of the house he stole from me, adjusted for inflation. She grinned. He blocked me. Poetic justice has a sense of humor. Speaking of which, guess who got engaged? She showed me her phone. Instagram post. Giselle, 25 now, wearing a modest diamond, hugging a guy who looked approximately her age. Caption about new beginnings and finding real love. Good for her, I guess. Everyone deserves a chance to learn from catastrophically bad decisions. Very diplomatic. I'm practicing maturity. How's it sound? Weird on you. Go back to sarcasm. I'd heard through mutual connections that Sterling had finally found stable employment. Call center for a credit card company. $38,000 annually. Not terrible. Not great. He'd moved into a decent apartment in Arlington, bought a used Honda Civic to replace the repossessed BMW. Small life. quiet life. The kind of existence you build when you've burned down everything bigger. Part of me, a small, petty part I'm not particularly proud of, felt satisfied knowing he'd face his mediocrity every single day. But mostly, I felt nothing. He'd become irrelevant. Just a person I used to know who made terrible choices that no longer affected me. Someone asked me once, at a work happy hour, if I regretted marrying Sterling. 11 years seemed like a long time to invest in something that ended badly. I thought about it, really considered the question. No, I said finally. I regret staying past the point where I knew something was wrong. I regret not trusting my instincts sooner. But marrying him? That was a decision I made with the information I had at the time. Younger me thought she was building something worth keeping. Turned out she was wrong. But being wrong isn't the same as having regrets. Because here's what I learned. You can't control other people's choices. Sterling was going to be Sterling regardless of how good a wife I was, how understanding, how accommodating. His character flaws weren't my responsibility to fix. His consequences weren't my burden to carry. What I could control was my response. And I chose evidence over emotion, documentation over drama, legal channels over public scenes. I chose to protect myself, support someone who'd been wronged, and walk away with dignity intact. The red light confrontation felt like a lifetime ago. That shocked woman filming her husband's panic, hands shaking, world tilting sideways. She seemed like a different person, someone less certain, less capable, less aware of her own strength. Current me knows better. Current me has her own house, her own career, her own life built on foundations that can't be shaken by someone else's dishonesty. Current me understands that the best revenge isn't elaborate schemes or public humiliation. It's building a life so fulfilling that your ex-husband becomes a footnote in your origin story instead of a chapter that defines you. Sterling got what he deserved. Marilla got her house back. I got my freedom and self-respect. Giselle got a learning experience and apparently a fiancé. Everyone moved forward. Sometimes I drive past that intersection. Mockingbird and Greenville. The light turns red and I stop, remembering that Tuesday afternoon when everything changed. The panic, the betrayal, the immediate decision to document instead of react. Best choice I ever made. These days, when the light turns green, I just keep driving. There's a whole city ahead, full of possibilities that have nothing to do with the man who thought I wouldn't fight back. Turns out he was wrong about a lot of things, but especially that.